Yeah. Oh, good. Great. Okay, we're live now. Thank you for coming to ACM, everybody. We're going to start with an opening prayer. Does anybody want to do that? Wellesley?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you that we could be here. Please bless us that we will have us here and teach us that we may learn and enjoy and use.
All right, so today's presentation's on Unity. We did something last week, but it was more like an infomercial, which was kind of frustrating. Didn't expect that, but we're gonna go for round two and actually go into depth on the Unity game engine. But first, doesn't look like a lot of people from the Mindstorm competition are here, so we'll just skip that. But if anybody wants to know exactly what's happened with Mindstorm, we've calculated the parts, we figured out the price. In total, the entire thing is going to cost like about $800-something, including the EV3 units. So that totally blows our budget for like the semester, and then some. So we're going to order those parts. I think we may have ordered those parts. We have approval to order those parts. The problem is Lego takes about they say a couple of weeks to pull them off the shelf, put them into a package, and then ship them to us, which is frustrating. But we're on it. We're on it. Okay. So major development. I wanted to share something with you. Does anybody know about Google's AlphaGo? What's been going on with that? So I'll show a video on the whole thing. So we switched over. Board configurations. As more board configurations than there are atoms in the universe, it is impossible for you to be able to statistically model every single possible outcome in a game. It's impossible for a computer to do it because there's not enough memory to handle that. So it's a major breakthrough. They've made it so that way the neural network is playing against itself on its free time. They've made it so that way it has been fed a whole bunch of data from like hundreds of years of Go games, and they've made it so it's now like able to match the quality of a grandmaster. They treat it like a martial art by the ranking system. And the interesting thing about AlphaGo is that it will choose a move that will have a game outcome of 1 point, 1 winning point, if it has like a 90% probability of success, over a move or a game configuration at the end that would have a possible outcome of like 20 points or probability of 80%. So if that makes sense, let me try restating that. It will choose a 90% probability of winning over an 80% probability of winning, regardless of the possibility that it will have less of your votes. Will choose the more likely winning outcome. So it's very interesting when people try to play it. When the grandmasters play it, they comment that it doesn't always make the most human kind of moves. It makes moves that seem kind of detrimental to its success. But in reality, it's thinking ahead and saying, oh, well, if I do this, despite the fact that I'm sacrificing a couple of points here, I'm going to increase my chances of winning at the end. So it's very, very interesting. Okay, so we're going to go over Unity, and that's going to be done by Clint. So we're in right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So make sure you have Unity, or if you don't have Unity, if you have your laptops out, basically what Clint's going to do is he's going to walk us through it. Make sure you have your laptop open, make sure you download it, because then afterwards we're going to break out. We're going to get you set up and started and acquainted with like game engine and how you can move around in it, how to get set up and stuff yourself. So go to the website. You don't need the Android SDK, but this is just an old slide from last time. The benefit is that it's the code space you'll be able to use Google Cardboard and put inside a camera that will make it so you can move around in your world. So he's got some really cool stuff to show you.
Thank you, Matthew, for the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and plug in here so we can get the screen so you can see what's kind of going on while I'm going through the basic tutorial of it. Just see my keyboard there.
Perfect. So
to start off with,
Matthew introduced Unity a little bit. What it is it's a game engine similar to Frostbite.
If any of you played Battlefield 4 or Battlefront, the new PS4 video games that have come out, they're built on a device, a game engine called Frostbite. This is a game engine called Unity. We previously showed the link where you can download it.
But if you're wondering what the link actually looks like, make sure you got it correctly.
I just did a Unity download search and downloaded Unity 5.3.3. When you click this, it'll bring you to a page that's very similar to this. Click the download installer, and you'll be able to install Unity, and it'll ask you for different features that you want in your Unity game engine. So this is the game engine once it's downloaded.
This is what your screen will look like,
where you'll have a blank screen right here instead of a scene. But first off, I wanted to start off and show you what I've created in the last week. I wanted to show you what I've created in the last week and a half to give you a feel of what this game engine can really do. So this is a simple terrain that I've created, and as we can tell here, I've got a log with grass around it, I've got a cabin, a campfire, and a lot of this stuff is free.
I haven't bought any of this stuff in the App Store.
All of this is free. Downloads that you can download and use in your environment. Even if you run over here, I've got a body of water, which is fairly cool. I've been playing with that for the last couple of days here, trying to get it to work, and I'm still trying to figure out how to put the body of the water underneath. But as you can see, we can look up and you can see the different waves and things in the water. So this is basically what you can do in Unity, and you can do so much more. If I zoom out here, I'll show you what I've done. This is my terrain here, and I've created mountains in the background there that are snow-capped, and I've got water surrounding the entire terrain. So to start off with, what I want to do is I want to get you used to the game engine itself, the tools, how to create terrains, and get you on a basis with the game engine so that you can create your own reality. Okay. To do so, I'm going to close this, and if you've got Unity on your computer, go ahead and follow what I'm going to do here. I want you to open up Unity.
You have Unity?
Okay. Come to CodeSpace. I'll be here tonight at CodeSpace, and we can help you get it downloaded. And go through it some more. But we have Unity here. We open it up, and you'll come to a screen similar to this. And if you create a new project, it will probably say Documents up to this point. I created a folder called Unity Games, and that's where I stick all my Unity projects and my documents. So that's fairly simple. Let's go ahead and what I want you to do is name your project. I'm going to say New Project Terrain 1. And before we create the project, there's different things that you can do. You can either say, I want a 2D project, or you want a 3-dimensional project. And then the asset package is here. If you click this, you can download different assets, things you can use in your environment. For example, from the environment package, you will get a type of grass that you can overlay your terrain with. It'll give you different textures that you can texture the actual terrain itself. So we'll go ahead and start off with the environment package and the characters package. And we'll go with that right now. And we'll create a project.
So can you get those projects added even after you start a project?
Yes, you can. And I'll show you how you can continually download new assets and keep the ones that you have in a fairly organized manner. So, it will take a while to download. Some asset packages, I've got one that's called the Blacksmith Environment. It's completely free, but it gives you 4 or 5 different trees, different grass textures, and normally a texture of that, or a package of that detailed magnitude would cost around $70 as an asset package. But this is one Unity has exclusively come out with, and it is free for anybody to download. When you create a project with that, as I'm doing here, it'll take a good while to download. I've been reading about Unity, and some of the issues they've had is that it'll act as if it's not responding when it's downloading these kind of imports and things. What they told me to do is just let it sit, do its thing. You can still use your computer, you just won't be able to use the Unity game engine. You won't be able to exit it, you won't be able to do anything with it unless you go to End Task and End the Process. But they said let it run, and it'll eventually quit and bring back the usability of the game engine. So this is what your screen will look like from the get-go. Okay. What I want to do is I want to zoom out here, and you can use your roller bar to zoom out. And I found this easiest to do with a mouse because there's a lot of modeling and looking around and things like that, and doing it on a trackpad can be somewhat difficult. But if you've got a mouse or a trackpad, I want you to right-click, and you can see that you'll get a hand, and you'll be able to move that terrain around. Okay. And kind of move around in this 2D dimensional scene here. But I'm going to show you how to change that and make it a 3-dimensional scene with a terrain and things like that. But before I teach you about those different tools, I want to teach you about the different tabs that are in this game engine. Over here you have a hierarchy, and this is what is included in your scene. The inspector is a tab that if I were to click something in the hierarchy, it'll give me different settings for each item in my hierarchy tab. Okay? And then down here, I've got a project tab, which gives me all the different assets. So you notice I imported the environment asset and the character asset. And those all get shoved into something called the standard assets right in here. And you can use these assets within your project. A lot of this is just drag and drop. It's really simple. But first, let's go ahead and let's create a terrain. So I'm going to come up here to Game Object. I'm going to come down to 3D Object, and I'm going to come over to Terrain. As you can tell, it's created a terrain here, and the positions are zeroed out, and rotation zeroed. Everything is zeroed out. If we scroll out here, we should be able to. Actually, no, I'm not going to scroll out. Just double-click Terrain. It'll align you with the terrain itself. And is this? There we go. So I actually had 2D clicked right here. Right up here. If you click this, it'll get rid of the 2D scene and make it a 3D scene, just like this. So now we got a three-dimensional aspect for our scene, and our environment is going to be built on this terrain right here. This black object is going to be our terrain. In some versions, it's white. I've not understood the coloring scheme behind it, why it's black and why it's white most of the time. But this is, like I said, very simply used. If you click on terrain, you'll notice that the different tools change as with main camera. Main camera gives us something completely different to use. Terrain gives us another set of different tools. To start off with, I want to texture the terrain. And just like most of your Adobe shops, Photoshops, things like that, they give you specific tools to use. And the paintbrush, well, it paints. And so let's go ahead and click the paintbrush and add a texture. So the way we do that is we come down here, we say Edit Textures, we add a texture, and you're going to get this funky little box that pops up. It took me a while to figure out what happens here. If you come over here and you select the non-texture 2D, just select the box itself, it'll bring up different textures. If you download it in the environment package, you'll get these different textures. And if you, let's say we wanted a texture with this grass here. This is not going to be the three-dimensional grass waving. It's going to be a two-dimensional paint that's going to sit on our ground. So we can do it with this grass here. And then what we can do, and this, again, it was kind of tricky to figure it out. Where'd that go? So I've selected the grass texture that I was looking for. If we come over here and select in this normal spot, in this normal box, it's going to look for a normal map. What a normal map is it's these blue pictures. And that's the way that the texture will actually be printed on your surface. So if I come down here, yes.
So is this like how the texture will behave when it gets hit by light at certain angles or something like that?
I would say yes. Based on the lighting of it, it's a normal map, and what normal maps do are create a pattern for it to be layered out. So this will be the paint. This guy here will be the paint being used, and the texture being used will be one of these maps. Let's go ahead and click this guy here. And then there's different settings here. I don't normally mess with these. I just normally just click Add, and you'll see that it adds it right here in your textures panel. If you just left click on this, you can then change your brush to a different type of brush. And I'm going to go ahead and just do this one. What I found is that the first texture you add will be applied to your entire scene, no matter what. So let's see here. You what? Oh, there we go. That's weird. So my setting was in dark mode, and in dark mode it doesn't show the textures. So if we turn off the sun, there's another setting right up here by 2D. By turning that off, we'll actually see the textures. And it's just something that you got to get used to. Sometimes it's kind of funky, and when you load up, they've got these weird settings turned on, and you just got to shut them off. But as you can tell, if you look closely, you'll see that that is our grass texture. This guy right here is being applied to these different spots. But let's go ahead and I'm going to add another texture, make it more realistic. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to grab this, what looks like kind of like a rock texture. Grab another normal map, and this time I'm going to grab. Let's go with the water bump. It's got a little bit more small bumpiness to it, and will be easier to apply. So as you can tell, the first one got applied to the entire terrain. My second one is being applied wherever my cursor is at, and that is just the way it works. The first one will always be applied to whatever. So find a base texture, dark, on the preferred, texture your texture with, or your terrain with that, and then you can start editing it with other textures to get a different feel in what you want. So now that we've added two different styles of textures, what I want to show you is how to actually build your terrain. And as you can see here, you have this, what looks like mountains with an arrow going up. That represents elevation gain. If you grab one of these tools here and you come out here, you can actually come down here and change the brush size from being super small to fairly large. Opacity here, you'll notice that if I do 100 and I just click once, it instantly created a lot of little bumps. If I lower my opacity down to like 9 and I click it, you'll notice that it didn't really do much. I'll have to kind of continue to tap it to get the bumps to come up. So if you have issues with your texture just going up like this and things like it's not doing what you want it to do, a lot of the time the opacity is set too high and it's just growing insanely fast, and you're trying to control that.
It's like the strength of your elevation.
Yes. So this raises elevation. If you want to get elevation to go back down, just hold the shift, select the brush that you want. I'm going to select this one so it does it uniformly. Hold shift and left click, and it'll flatten that terrain back out. And that is just, yeah.
How do you do negative elevation?
I haven't figured that out yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. Have you?
Or you could elevate the entire terrain and just
Okay.
between them.
So what he's saying is by taking this y-axis, you can move it up. I'm going to move it up 50. And then if you hold shift, you can actually...
What I'm talking about is like raise the entire terrain with the brush.
With the brush.
The thing makes the whole thing mountain.
And then lower it. Yeah.
Oh, and then lower it down after that? Okay. So once it's zeroed out, you can't go any farther than that. And so what he's saying is you just raise the terrain, and that'll create your negative terrain kind of in these little cracks in here. And then you can also just lower that terrain down as such like this, and that'll create the effect of negative terrain or negative elevation. So I'm still getting familiar with it completely. But say now with this terrain here, I don't want to use this terrain. I want a completely flat terrain again. Rather than creating an entire new terrain, what you can actually do is go to this tool just to the right, where it's got the 2 arrows instead of the 1. If you click that and come over here to the bottom right, you'll see that it actually gives us another setting called height and a flatten button. If I hit flatten, it flattens that terrain completely. If I set the height, say I want the height to be no greater than 43, I'm only going to be able to go to a height of 43 when I create my terrain. It's going to create like a plateau kind of feel, and that's kind of the default value for where it's going to be set. It won't go any higher. This tool here that looks like a mountain with a teardrop, this is something that is to smooth out the terrain. So say I have a brush similar to this guy here, and I just hold it right there with a greater opacity, of course. And I just hold it there, and I just get these sharp, jaggedy edges like this. Your game character is not going to be able to walk up that. That's just unrealistic. So by coming over here and clicking this, we can then change our brush. I'm going to use the big brush to do it in an organized fashion. But I can smooth it out, smooth that back off into what looks like a terrain, so it's not so jaggedy and sharp. And that's how I created the terrain that I just showed you in the very beginning. I used all these different tools, combined them, and I did different layering and textures with grass and dirt and mud, and got the nice color of dirt that I wanted. And then I layered it with 3D grass and things like that. I'll show you how to do that in this tutorial as well. As you can tell, I'm actually moving through the map, and the way I'm doing that is if you click this hand here and left click, you'll move the terrain in a 3-dimensional space. Okay. But if you right click, you'll get an eye that will allow you to look around in however fashion you want. I can look all the way around myself, look down, but I have to hold the right-click button on my mouse to do that. And that's where I found the mouse was easiest. Trackpads made it a little harder because I was always having to move my fingers around on the trackpad. With the mouse, I could just move it real nice and easy. Sorry? So another feature that we have is with this right-click, when you have the I, if you use your W, A, S, and D, W will move you forward, and if you hold it, you'll continually get faster and faster and faster. S will move you backwards, and A left, D right. And then I can use the roller ball on my mouse to zoom in quicker if I needed to. Okay. Let's see. I wanted to show you something now that makes Unity very user-friendly. Instead of having to go to the internet and download a package and do all this different stuff, what they've actually given you inside this window tab is something called the Asset Store. We go to the Asset Store. This is where we can search for the different environments that we want. And so I'm going to say I want grass, and that's just what I want. And you'll notice that most of them have a price on them. What I like to do is just come up here and then click price, and it'll always show the free ones first. And so by doing this, I can come in here, I can download these free textures and grass meshes. So let's go ahead and I'm going to download this guy here real quick. So I've already downloaded it, and so it says import right here. It'll say download before that, but if it's already been done, it says import. All you got to do is just click that, and it'll import that package. So say you've created a project and you forgot to import one of your assets. Just go to the store. If you bought it, if it's free, and you've already downloaded it, it'll be there, and you just import it back in. So I've got these different items that come with this texture or with this pack. So I'm going to import it. That way I can show you guys how to add different textures or different objects like trees and grass. So I'm not going to download the blacksmith texture pack because that will take at least 4 minutes to load and be done with. We just don't have the time for that. But I will show you what you can do with it. I'll show you a YouTube video that Unity produced with this theme that they had. So is there any questions while this is loading? Anything that you guys are interested in? Good question. I haven't really done much with those types of programs, so I'm not 100% sure if there's a way to import that.
There is. Blender. All right. So Unity doesn't have great model building tools. It's got terrain building tools, and it's a place for you to drop in assets and just combine them into one huge thing, but it's not like it's what you build in model. So if you use Blender, you can use modeling tools there. We also use 4D, 3ds Max, and Maya. Basically, Blender's free. 3ds Max is probably one of the most user-friendly interfaces, and Maya and something for Maya and 3ds Max are more professional grade. At least my opinion. You export it into there's probably an import function in there to show all accepted file types, and you can just probably drop it in there. So, and you just have to get something that needs it, and it's brought user time for sure that would help you do that. But yes, it is possible. It's encouraged.
There is a lot of. I was actually surprised when I went to YouTube. This is how I learned this stuff. I went to YouTube and I started looking at tutorials, and I was really impressed that there were so many different videos from so many different people on how to build this stuff, and it made it super simple. Some of the videos didn't have any words to them, but if you just load the framing down, you can follow along with it and do exactly what they've done and build your terrain exactly like they did. So now that we've downloaded this package, you'll see that it's in my assets here as the Nature Starter Kit 2, and that's what it's named. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come into our scene, and you'll notice that the asset store, it actually downloads the tab and puts it right here beside your game and your scene. And then if you want to go back to your scene, you just click your scene. So let's go ahead and add some trees. I've showed you the first 4 different tools: the texture, the elevation rising, the elevation, and the smooth tool. Now we're going to do trees. And trees, the way you add a tree or a texture of trees is you click this little button. It looks like a lollipop. Come down here, you edit trees, and say add a tree. I believe there is one type of tree that automatically comes with the download, and that is the conifer desktop object. So if we come in here, you'll see that we have the conifer desktop. We've got some different bushes now because of the starter pack that we downloaded. We've got some other different types of trees in here. Let's go ahead and try this guy here and put the conifer on here. So we'll go ahead and click. You'll notice that how I did that, this is kind of confusing. It took me a while to figure this out. If you edit a tree and you add a tree, you can't just click right here and expect to get to the tree object. You've actually got to click this little circle beside it, and it opens up this menu here with your different trees. Okay? So we'll go ahead and we'll add that conifer in there. Now when you do this, it'll ask you for different settings. Again, you've got the brush size, but this time instead of opacity, you have tree density. How many trees do you want in that little circle? I'm going to go ahead and lower this down to, say, 28 different trees. And this is where I thought was kind of interesting, was tree height. You can make it random. You can either make them tightly condensed within a certain range, or you can spread it out and get a tall tree mixed with medium height trees or small trees. You can change the width manually by unlocking the height, the width according to the height of the tree, so that you can get bigger tree girths rather than height. So we'll go ahead and leave that locked so it's the same. And then some trees, they actually have a color variation where you can change the different, based on like 0.6, 60% of your trees will be a variant color from the other types of trees, which is, I thought was pretty cool, because then you can get a dark colored tree versus a light colored tree. Made your terrain look a lot more realistic. So we'll go ahead and we'll put some trees out here. And you can see that I'm just clicking them, and it's just left clicking and putting the trees where I think trees should be placed. So we've added trees into our scene, and shown you a couple of the different settings for trees. I want to show you real quickly how to add grass. And grass, there's 2 different flavors of grass. There's the 2D flat layer that's like a texture, or there's a 3D layer that actually is a type that will wave in the wind, and you'll be walking through it. So if we come back over here where there's empty space, grass is the tool just beside trees. It looks like 3 different bush stands. But again, you can choose any different type of texture brush that you'd like. This one's going to be a opacity and target strength. Let's go ahead and, in this one, it doesn't say edit grass, it says edit details. And here's where your 2 options are. You have a texture or you have a mesh. The mesh is a 3D object. The texture is the 2D flat color of the grass. So I'm going to see if we have any meshes. And again, you can't click this little box. You've got to click the little arrow or the little circle here. And if we come on down here, it looks like this package didn't allow us to have any grass in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bush, and I'm going to color it. Let's go ahead and make it bright green so we can see it. And then I'm going to add that, and I'll add it right there. Yes. Show up. Sometimes I've had issues with grass not functioning the way it should, but it could be that this is just a bush, not grass. we'll go ahead and I'll remove it from its spot here. So the way you remove a bush, you can't just come up and right click and say remove. You click the one that you want to remove, come down to edit details, and say remove or edit. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it. I'm going to come back out here to the asset store and see if we can find one that's got grass in it. So before I continue, have we all downloaded Unity and got this far in it? Still downloading? It's kind of a big project. Like I said, I'll be here during code space. And so if you get it downloaded by then, I can kind of go through and help you through it again, so you can get a better understanding of it. Let's go ahead and do grass. Back to prices. And down with this guy. Okay, yeah, this was the one. So if I import this guy, you can actually, it'll show you what's all in the package. This package here I've downloaded. You can see it comes with a fern, different types of ferns, different types of grass mesh, your 3D grasses. Let's go ahead and import this guy. This one's really quick to import. I was surprised with as much stuff as it has in it. Do the guys online have any questions? No.
Yeah. See them here.
Oh. Okay, so this is something that's kind of important. You'll get some terrain features and assets that when you try to download them, it'll give you this box saying that it's obsolete, that it's not going to work properly. Unity has actually made it to where if you just click, I made a backup, go ahead, it'll update that asset for the current version of Unity that you're using. So let's go ahead and I created a backup and we'll add it in. And as you can tell, it added it here underneath this quadruple zero ATS v2 package. And now if we go in back to our scene and add in a detailed mesh for grass, we can add a detailed mesh. Back over here to our little circle. Now we've got ferns and we've got flowers, we've got reeds, and there's our grass right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click grass. Now, something that I've noticed is depending on how high your camera is, however you created your body, I like to set this down to 1 as for the max height. That's how high it will grow. And we'll go ahead and make the colors to the colors that are there. So we'll let this load here. I normally wait for that little picture to show up, and then I'll start planting it. But there we go. So as you can tell, I'm layering grass all over this texture here. And there's a cool feature that comes with Unity that allows you to actually get down and view the grass. The way you do that is when you downloaded the character asset package, it gave you some first-person cameras to use. So we're going to click for first person. We're going to go to Prefabs. And what this is Prefabs are something that have already been fabricated for you to use. That's why it's called a prefab. There are things that you can create using scripts. They're in JavaScript, C#. There's a bunch of different languages you can use to create different scripts to run something that you want to create. But they've given us this rigid body first-person shooter controller. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to throw it onto the screen there. And you'll see that it pops up here on the left of my hierarchy. And along with it comes different settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and my movement settings. You'll start out at 8. That's kind of slow. I like to put it up to like 15. And we'll go ahead and start it there. Now with the rigid body first-person shooter controller on there, I can actually come up and hit this play button at the top of the screen. When I do that, I'll be on this terrain. But the problem with this is if your rigid body camera is not completely on the terrain, you'll fall through the terrain and you'll just keep falling and falling and falling. So you got to make sure that the bottom of the camera is actually above the terrain, and I'll show that to you real quickly. So if you double click rigid body, it'll zoom in on you. And if you hit this up here in the top left corner here, it'll bring up these different arrows here to allow you to move the camera in its three-dimensional space. So, yeah.
You also go over a skybox and lighting?
I haven't ever played the skybox. I haven't done a whole lot of that. I'm still trying to learn how to do that, and so maybe we can go over that in a code space sometime after I've played with it a little bit.
All right. What about?
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about lighting, but first I wanted to show you guys about this guy here. So this is the actual first-person shooter controller, and as you can tell, you got a rounded bottom in here. If this isn't sitting on the map or it's through the map, you'll fall through the map and continue falling. So you got to make sure. I always set it like a couple inches above the map, and then that way it like falls and hits the map, and then I can walk and do whatever I want. So Matthew asked a question about lighting, and there's different settings in here for lighting that you can do. One that I had clicked on originally was this one right here, which turns it dark. So now as I zoom out, you'll see that there's still textures, but it's just dark. This is when it's daytime. That's one way of messing with lighting. Another way of doing it is actually coming up to game object and see here. You can come down to light here and create a directional light. You can create a spotlight. And change the intensity of it. Let's see here. So it is. Okay, so as you can tell, I've set my map or my terrain at 50. My spotlight is at 60, and it'll show you the circle of where the light will show up as you're using it. Let's see here. So with directional lighting, you'll notice I changed it from the spotlight to directional lighting. The yellow bars coming down is showing you at which direction the light is actually flowing. In this case, it is flowing straight down, so as if it were like noon. But you can change that by rotating your light on the y-axis, I believe. So if we step back, might be the z-axis. Nope, it's the x-axis. So as you can tell, I've made it at 6 degrees, or I can make it at 60, and that'll change the lighting to be more of like a realistic 10 in the morning or 3 at night, depending on where you've placed the directional lighting in your scene. So,
You see what it looks like it's play?
yeah, we can try it. I don't know if it's going to do anything at the moment. Oh, it did something. So, it's bright.
That's your grass. You did a really bright green.
Yeah, so I did a
intensity of the light really bright.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and turn down the intensity of that light so it's not so bright. Go ahead and do that. Let's see what we get here with that. Okay, that's a little better. So basically what I've done is you'll notice that if I look up here, so I can't find the directional lighting. Normally you'll see a sun or something in the sky, but yeah. I'm as far up as I can go. So to move around in this play view, you use 10 keys, WASD. You'll be able to move around in it. Like I said, I like 15 because I can move like a normal character, move a lot quicker. 8, I feel like a snail. Let's see if I can get up there. Nope. So, but let's see here. If I stop this, so something else I forgot to mention: when you're in that play mode, to get out of play mode, sometimes your mouse key is gone because you're in play mode. Just hit Control P and it'll stop you, and it'll pull you back out to where you can actually change things. So let's go ahead and let's move this guy. Can you? Really? Try that. I've never done that. Oh yeah, there it is right there. Okay.
You can adjust the light position from your outside.
Put that at. Change it. This was at 100. So let's go back, Control Z, and let's move it on the Y out 400.
On easy ground.
Oh, no, it's up above me, right there. So, go ahead and bring that back down. I still haven't gotten used to the whole three-dimensional axis stuff. It's kind of tricky to play with.
The easy way to manipulate it, you know what you do with limit values? If you zoom in on it, you click up at the top, where there's two, it's right next to the hand and the cross and then the circles. Or, no, next to it. Yeah, that one. And you can rotate it by axis.
Ah, interesting. That's something I have never really used before. So, we'll go ahead and do a quick play here again. So yeah, that's the that's how directional lighting works. You can play with that some more on your free time. And they've got tutorials on it on YouTube as well. So I'll go ahead for the last several minutes here. Have you guys created any terrains or anything while we've been talking? Have you? Okay. Do you guys have I guess do you guys have a good understanding of what we've done today? Would you be comfortable doing something on your own? Yeah? Okay. Well, definitely come to Code Space. We'll be able to talk more about that. And
We have these two. So you
Yep.
want to be able to play with them, or also do stuff in Unity that can be made for this, then that's also an option. This is Google Cardboard. You stick your phone in it, and now you've got yourself a virtual reality headset, and it's actually pretty decent. So
And once again, this is thanks to Unofficial Cardboard.
yes, Unofficial Cardboard. We still have to make a thank you for them. So it's a very generous gift. So yeah, we've got a few minutes. So if you want help from Clint, then he'll be able to help you out with that.
Goodbye, everyone online.
Code Space is